And we're off.
Having a new technology revolution enlarged in MENA would help us tremendously. Help us in terms of providing services to the people in a transparent way, so that the whole conversation about governance, about trust, could be addressed through that.
Digital transformation important because without that technology, without that digital aspect, all will stop. They will not be able to work. So it has really become a necessity.
I believe it's a golden opportunity. Everyone has now felt over the past few months the real need and the real benefit. It was like a mind shock to everyone.
We have now new generations, young people who want to do two things. One, to have a say in what their leaders are deciding, and second, to be able to expand their reach, to be able to engage with others. And this is why it is very important that this old social contract needs to be renegotiated.
You see governments and countries that are well advanced, others that are well behind. I believe most of them went into the respond phase, and some of them are into the recover. So recover phase is, okay, we've responded, but this is here to stay. How can we continue to operate?
For governments, the investment and the enablement must continue. Government must support the private sectors to continue and add further investments in telecommunication, in broadband.
This new industry cannot tolerate too much regulations and too many constraints, because it is evolving on a daily basis. So we need to open the door and let this technology, let this industry, let these young people thrive.
Good afternoon, good morning. I am Nadir Mohammed, Regional Director, Equitable Growth Finance and Institutions in the Middle East and North Africa region of the World Bank. It's my great pleasure to welcome you to today's webinar of the MENA Tech series on digital payments. It's the second of a series on accelerating digital transformation in MENA. More webinars are forthcoming. This event features simultaneous interpretation in English, French, and of course, Arabic. For Arabic, please choose language 1. You can switch languages by clicking on the links on the right side of the event webpage. Please use those tools to select the language you wish to hear. Today, we will focus on what it will take for the MENA region to accelerate adoption of digital payment as a driver to accelerate growth, job creation, entrepreneurship, foster inclusion, modernize public service delivery, and combat corruption. These are just among the most important development challenges in our region, and digital payments beyond their foundational and technical roles can play a substantial role in addressing these challenges. Through this webinar, our objective is to increase awareness of how digital payments can support job creation, enhance service delivery and inclusion of youth and women, particularly during the pandemic, or including during the pandemic. By bringing in diversity on public and private players, as well as users who will share their experience and perspective, we also aim to identify together avenues for higher adoption of digital payments in our region and broadening their development impact. After opening remarks of Mr. Ferid Belhaj, MENA Vice President, and His Excellency Dr. Abdulrahman Al-Hamidy, Chairman of the Arab Monetary Fund, we will have an exciting panel discussion bringing in perspective from different countries and angles. The panel will be moderated by my friend, the World Bank Global Director for Finance, Jan Pem, to whom the region is dear, having worked on it for a long period of time. The webinar has been prepared with our long-standing partner, the Arab Monetary Fund, and we are extremely happy to have Dr. Al-Hamidy later give his perspective on digital payment in the region. We look forward to interacting with all of you in the audience. We will have a Q&A session after the panel discussion where we will have time to take your questions to the speakers. So please use the chat section to share your comments and questions. We want to hear from you, so please share your thoughts on the program, your ideas, and your hopes for a digitally transformed region. Thank you all for joining us, and I hope you enjoy this discussion. Now, let me pass to Mr. Ferid Belhaj, MENA Vice President, for his remarks.
Thank you very, very much, Nadir. Good morning, good afternoon, Ramadan Mubarak to all of the colleagues around the large region and the large table. It's great to be with you today. It's really great to be with Abdulrahman, a friend and a brother, and very happy to see him sitting with us, and I'd like to salute him. And very good to be with Marouane and Ashraf and Khawla around the region. It is going to be indeed an exciting conversation. So really, thank you very much, all of you, for being part of this important discussion. I believe we are here today to discuss digital financial services, particularly digital payments. And this is an issue that is very important, very dear to our hearts, but also, frankly, very dear to our agenda of growth and economic empowerment. However, if I may, today, I believe this webinar should be put into a much larger context. The World Bank Middle East and North Africa region has approached the digital transformation to go beyond just a transformation of the digital world. For us, at its core, this conversation has to do with a strong focus on strengthening the social contract, exactly the way Nadir mentioned it right now. Strengthening public institutions, strengthening transparency and accountability, as well as a greater empowerment of citizens. The main issue we found in the Middle East and North Africa is the mistrust between the state and the citizen, between the state and between government and the citizen and the people. And we believe that through instilling transparency, instilling less administration and less human touch and human engagement in transactions, well, we can instill more transparency and we can instill less, or let's have less scope for possible corruption. So this is for that broad picture, trying to make sure that we get into a place where people have faith in their transaction, faith in what they are doing, and with less hands-on government into people's financial dealings and financial transactions. During COVID-19, and as the need for social distancing grew, digital payments, which used to be something nice to have, transformed into a daily necessity in most of the countries. Countries that either had a very well functioning digital payment ecosystem or had the key enablers to it, were able to respond to the crisis better and with agility. Digital payments were at the center of three dynamics induced by the crisis. One, cash and cash-based payments. And those services were severely impaired due to the restrictions on physical movement, concerns of cash being a vector for spreading the disease, and restrictions in operations of bank branches, physical mobile money, and remittance agents, who are often small shopkeepers. Secondly, society is rapidly adopting digital economy models for buying day-to-day essentials, distance learning, access to medical services and to medical advice, which all are underpinned by digital payments. Relatedly, individuals and businesses were forced to adopt digital channels to manage their finances, connect, and be part of the global value chain. Third, the rapid and deep shock to the economy has increased demands for government's financial support to businesses and benefit transfers to individuals, particularly those that were neither in the existing social protection programs or in the existing social insurance programs. This digital approach is enabling governments to identify the most needy, to enroll them and transfer money to them. Digital payments are going to be a key component also for this concept of building back better and addressing the long-standing financial inclusion gap in the Middle East and North Africa, both for individuals and firms, as well as widespread gender disparities in access to finance and employment. For instance, the gender divide in access to transactions account in MENA for 8 percentage points, double the gender gap globally. And by the way, and this is something I'd like to stress, our agenda in MENA, the gender agenda in MENA is paramount. We want to push all of those red lines on the gender agenda, economic empowerment being one of those. And with Nadir and his team, we are pushing forward to make sure that MENA, the Middle East and North Africa, becomes the standard bearer of reforms of the gender agenda in the whole region. MENA also has the highest unmet demand globally in the medium and small enterprises and the financing of those. 88% of firms reported they have no access to credit. That too has been an issue with us for years, and it is only time for us to move forward and more aggressively to address this particular issue. Digital payments are also enablers for cross-border e-commerce. One of the main issues we have in MENA, one of our main agendas is regional integration. And if regional integration is difficult for a number of reasons, sometimes geopolitical reasons, well, e-payments and e-border and e-commerce, cross-border commerce can become actually one way of overcoming some of the constraints that the politics in the region may have. Many businesses, fintechs, and individuals are increasingly using services delivered through cloud computing to manage their operations and expand their business in a cost-efficient manner. Lastly, I go back to this, cross-border e-commerce is growing, and it represents a further opportunity for MSMEs in MENA to expand the reach of their products and services, as well as purchase goods and services to improve their competitiveness. All these are reasons why we established the target of drastically increasing digital payments in all of our countries by the annual meetings of Marrakesh 2022. In October 2022, we will all be gathering in Morocco, in Marrakesh, and we have a number of steps between now and then to make sure that we can achieve a number of our targets, whether it is on digital payments or on a number of other themes that we believe are important to MENA. Our World Bank teams are supporting the whole region, both at the country level, and I know that we are engaging with a number of central banks, for instance, in Tunisia, in Egypt, in Jordan, in Morocco. So both at the country level and at the regional level. and the strong partnership with our friends in the Arab Monetary Fund. And again, I'd like to salute Abdulrahman here, is very important for us in fulfilling this very, very crucial goal. So we also have a comprehensive report coming out on digital payments, and let's make sure that we all look at it and possibly gather around it and comment on it so that we make it for what it is supposed to be made, meaning a live document that is supposed to be absorbing comments and supposed to be adapted vis-a-vis an industry and an ecosystem that is moving extremely fast. So I want now to turn the floor to our friends who are working on this topic on a daily basis. Like you, I'm also very interested in hearing their transformative ideas and challenges. Having now Abdulrahman engage with us on this would be very, very important. And again, thank you very much, Nadir. Thank you, Jean, for facilitating this event. And thank you to the participants for making themselves available and for engaging with us in this very, very, very important event. So, Abdulrahman, please, over to you.
Thank you so much, Ferid, and thank you, Nadir, and all the colleagues, our partners at the World Bank. And let me start by saying good morning and good afternoon, wherever you are. And I hope that you, your families, loved ones keep healthy during those very difficult times. Ramadan Mubarak and everybody. And I know it's late in the afternoon, especially in this part of our region. And therefore, thanks for all those who are joining us. Nadir and Ferid and everybody at the World Bank, thank you so much for being one of our main partners in different activities in our region. And also I would like to thank Governor Al-Abassi for being with us this afternoon and all other speakers and participants for this joint effort between the World Bank and the Arab Monetary Fund. Of course, we are still in very difficult times, and COVID-19 has put tremendous pressure on markets, governments, businesses, individuals, institutions like the Arab Monetary Fund and the World Bank. Providers of financial services, of course, have been operating under limitations from the lockdowns. We at the Arab Monetary Fund have been very much engaging with our member countries as well as regional and international institutions like the World Bank in order to exchange views, to share experiences about the inclusive and healthy financial systems to support the economic recovery and to support development during those very difficult times. On the role of technology in the financial sector, of course, the financial sector play a key role in the immediate response to the current crisis. Innovative technology in finance and digital financial services have increasingly been mobilized to mitigate the effects of the pandemic to benefit the economy as well as the population at large. Digital payments played a valuable role in delivering money to people and enterprises, and digital payments also help to avoid physical interactions by allowing contactless payments to be made. As countries recover from this crisis, robust, inclusive digital financial system is important for countries in order to create a critical foundation for development gains across sectors, as has been mentioned by Ferid in his opening remarks. On digital finance and financial inclusion in Arab region, in our region, finance has been transformed by digitalization. The latest wave of technology is reshaping the financial sector around the world, and we are in this region no exception. This type of innovation can stimulate competition and also having varieties in terms of financial products. As of the end 2019, there are more than 330 fintech solutions operating across our region. The growth of fintech solutions in the region over the last decade is due to multiple market drivers. One, we have a well-educated young population in this region. Also, remittances flows in our region. Market potential of unbanked people within the region, and a massive funding gap of businesses in the region. Therefore, reforms and investment for inclusive, safe digital financial services are expected to yield both socioeconomic and commercial gains, mainly for those who are mostly excluded, women, youth, MSMEs. It is estimated that additional financial inclusion in our region, reaching at least half the untapped market for individuals and MSMEs by 2024, will bring an additional revenue potential of $7 billion for the private sector. Therefore, it is essential to create and strengthen secure ecosystems for digital finance. Furthermore, roughly 80% of the adults in our region have access to mobile phone. 48% have access to both mobile phone and internet connection. Mobile money account ownership in the region stands only at 7%, and only 33% of adults made or received digital payments in the last year, compared to about 44% of adults in other regions. Those figures show how the untapped opportunities are now in front of the financial services providers. Advances in financial infrastructure, especially digital identity that can be linked to bank accounts, and the Arab Monetary Fund, with it is a group on fintech, is working on those issues that will, of course, provide commercial banks and financial institutions with a very high opportunity to reduce the cost of customer onboarding and ongoing compliance. On digital finance transformation in the Arab region, guidance for digital financial transformation can help to promote innovative fintech models, usage of digital finance, and the digitalization of sectors across the region, particularly for the benefit of low-income segments and the majority of excluded people. Key elements can be identified for a regional framework for digital financial transformation. Countries in the region are encouraged to set in place nationally relevant building blocks for empowering access through digital identity, electronic onboarding, and simple rules, enabling use through inclusive electronic payment systems and access networks, scaling use through electronic government services, expanding range and quality through digital financial markets and infrastructure for a range of services. On financial inclusion and BUNA, the Arab Monetary Fund, in the framework of financial inclusion for the Arab Region Initiative, and with the active engagement of the regional committees and task forces established under the umbrella of the Council of Arab Central Banks Governors, and of course with the cooperation of our international partners, including the World Bank, are in a unique position to advance progress to digital financial transformation in this region. Therefore, in line with our efforts to address cross-border payment challenges, the Arab Monetary Fund has launched in February of last year the BUNA payment platform, a centralized multi-currency cross-border payment system that can clear and process near real-time payments, supporting Arab and international currencies, and is currently in the process of expanding its network of both currencies and participants. The system was designed in line with the CPMI, PFMI principles, as well as the FATF, AML, CFT principles, the Security Council counterterrorism guidelines, and the UN sanction lists. BUNA aims at streamlining cross-border payments within the Arab region and between the Arab region and the World Bank, including instant payment services, by enabling participants to perform real-time, cost-effective, secure, and multi-currency cross-border payments. The project's motivation is to empower Arab economies and increase the level of integration between countries in the region, as well as with the rest of the world, especially with major trading and investment partners. Here, I would like to thank the World Bank of being our partner with this very important project, and the Arab and the World Bank is still our partner and will continue to be our partner in this project. Thank you, Ferid. Thank you, Nadir, and thank you all our colleagues with this event. And I would like to thank all the participants. Thank you again.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, Dr. Hamidy. It's always a pleasure to have the Arab Monetary Fund join us for this discussion. And more importantly, thank you very much for spearheading the efforts in the region to promote financial inclusion, digital financial services, as well as cross-border payment. My name is Jean-Pem. I'm the Global Director for Finance at the World Bank. Until recently, I was manager in MENA, so it's a region I know well and that is very close to my heart and very dear to my heart. So thank you very much for inviting me to moderate this panel. I think we are going to have a very interesting discussion on digital payment. As already mentioned by several of you so far, it has really the potential to be a cornerstone for digital transformation of the region. They can be a driving force for development on several fronts: job creation, entrepreneurship, inclusion, access to opportunities, as well as the delivery of improved public services to citizens. And improved provision of payment services in the region would also be an essential step for integrated countries into the digital economy. I think there is no need to emphasize how the pandemic has dramatically transformed our world and made availability and use of digital solution and digital financial services even more important to maintain economic activity, job, and supporting the most vulnerable. So let me set the scene a little bit for the panel that is coming, including by highlighting some of the key issues that we would want to discuss. So first, what do we mean when we talk about digital payments? Digital or electronic payment are transfer of values that are made using digital devices and channels. They include payments that are initiated by mobile phone or computer. We also consider that card payments are digital payments. As mentioned by several so far, digital payments have many attractive features. They offer affordable and convenient ways for people to make and receive payments and fund transfer, and to store value without needing any physically secure cash. They also enable data analytics that allow more efficient assessment of creditworthiness of consumers and merchants. They facilitate assistance in times of need, as people can more easily receive funds from relatives, friends, or government. Digital payment can also support women's empowerment by giving them more control over their finances. And finally, they can support the inclusion of people who are financially underserved or excluded for formal finance. Digital technologies are contributing to a more inclusive and prosperous world. Yet, the capacity to seize these formidable opportunities remains unequally distributed. In MENA, digital finance has become a strategic priority for national government as part of the broader financial inclusion agenda. However, from the Maghreb to the GCC and to the Mashrek, countries in the region vary widely in terms of achievement in digital financial development and the speed at which they are progressing. Many people are still left out of access to financial services and digital financial technologies. MENA lags all over all other world region, except Sub-Saharan Africa. About 145 million adults do not have access to bank accounts. Digital finance as a driver of financial inclusion has a long way to go. Ownership of mobile money accounts among youth in MENA remains low, only 5%, and well below the world level, which is 15%. MENA lags far behind in terms of cashless payments per capita. In 2018, there were 34 of them, while the global average was 78. Several obstacles to the development of digital financial services have been identified, and they include the absence of foundational legal and regulatory elements, supervision, digital ID, and others. A lack of competition that prevents development of a vibrant fintech ecosystem, as well as limited use of digital payment merchants. On the demand side, there is also lack of trust in digital data governance and in the safety of digital financial services, as well as insufficient digital literacy. And finally, digital financial services and its development are also dependent on affordable and universal internet access. So we still have quite a bit of challenges in front of us. And what can we do to collectively respond to accelerate the adoption of digital payment in non-MENA countries and to fully harness the power of digital payments for development? How can we remove remaining boundaries in terms of enabling environment from government and regulators, in terms of supply from the private sector, and in terms of demand from users? So to answer some of these questions, at least start answering some of these questions, I'm delighted to be joined by three speakers who are champions of advancing digital payment in the region, and they will also bring different perspectives. They sit in different places in the digital payment ecosystem, as well as different perspectives from countries, because coming from three countries having different evolution in that respect. So I'm delighted to have my friend Marouane Abassi, who is the governor of the Central Bank of Tunisia, join the panel, as well as Ashraf, who is the CEO of Fawry, the largest private operator of digital payment in the region. We're currently operating in Egypt. And finally, Ms. Khawla Abu Sarara, who is the head of Payment System Division, National Aid Fund in Jordan. So thank you very much for joining. Before we get to the panel discussion, we will have a look at a short video in which we can hear from people who are working on these issues in MENA on the ground to really bring us the on-the-ground perspective. And then we will go to 3 rounds of questions, which each of you having 1 question, and hopefully we'll still have enough time for question and answer for the public. So let's start with the video and then we'll reconvene as a panel.
Having people spending half a day for transportation to go to pay for their credits or bills, what they do, it's that all these guys are self-employed guys with their own shop, and they are losing half a day of business.
Empowering women clearly have an impact on the GDP growth. If we look at the MENA region, a World Bank study showed that had the gender gap in labor participation been narrowed, the GDP growth rate could have been doubled in the region. It's clearly further gender economic participation clearly linked to increase in GDP for the country, but also in terms of fairness and equity. It's having an economy that includes both men and women as workers is a very important element to ensure sustainable growth and fair growth as well.
طبعا ساهمت التكنولوجيا الحديثة في وصول المياه النظيفة من خلال أنا فلتر المياه من خلال تجربتنا في فلتر المياه
the new technology
برضه
helped
من
us
خلال وحدة
a lot
معالجة المياه الرمادية
concerning
طبعا بروي
the provision of
المزروعات
water,
بكل بساطة وسهولة
especially
ووفرة المي
concerning
وبرضه
the
كمان
plantation of
طبعا
potatoes
الحافة
and other
الإلكترونية
crops.
ساهمت في إني أقدر أدفع القروض وأسدد قروضي بكل يسر وسهولة.
Now this helps me to get my loans easily.
توفر على المواطن الوقت والجهد.
Also, this technology provides less time for the people to go to the bank and to borrow money. They spend less time than before using this new technology.
During the COVID-19 crisis in Morocco, we had a beautiful example of efforts deployed on one side by the government, on the other side by the banks, to actually deploy aids and pay people even if they don't have a bank account. And granted, the rate of banking system access in Morocco is much elevated than many countries, but we still have an important percentage that didn't have bank accounts. So via digital payments, the government was able to distribute aids digitally by sending codes for each person. When it comes to government services, there is an important phenomenon called corruption. Imagine a traceability from where the money came to where the money goes. This, in my opinion, will be a huge important step into eradicating corruption when it comes to transactions, citizen to government or business to government transactions.
Okay, excellent. Very good way to start this discussion. So thank you very much, Marouane, Khawla, and Ashraf. We would have 3 rounds of discussion. I understand from my colleague that we are getting tons of questions online. So let's try to get the discussion moving and so that we have enough time to take some of these questions. So Marouane, I'm going to start with you. So the Central Bank of Tunisia is one of the most innovative regulators in the region. You have launched a regulatory sandbox in January 2020. You have an innovation lab. A few weeks ago, the BCT approved the license application from a non-bank service provider, Yamobile. We actually heard from Yamobile earlier. All these examples show that the BCT is really embracing digital economy and turning it into opportunities for Tunisia. So can you tell us a bit more about the strategy on how you plan to further develop digital payment? Thank you very much, Marouane.
Okay, I think can you hear me?
Yes.
Excellent. First of all, I want to say to salute all the participants, but before my brother and friend Dr. Abdulhamid, and he's doing great enabling all this financial inclusion and digital payment in the region. And I remember the first time he came to Tunis, and we've met during this blockchain summit. Today in the central bank, we have some application based on the blockchain technology. Just to answer your question, I think it was for us very, very important, to embrace, this way of, let's say, establishing the establishment of payment in Tunisia. We know very well that financial inclusion is key for all of us, and in particular in Tunisia. That's why I think during this year, who was very, very tough year for all of us, we've had this, let's say, we managed, to try to better use the technology to help and to support our vulnerable and poor people. Then the Central Bank of Tunisia and all the other stakeholders, the Ministry of Information Technology, the Ministry of Finance, and some other important department in the country, we within less than 5 weeks, and with the collaboration with the national switch banks and the National Post Office and the telecom operators, we were able to give, the cash transfer for more than 400,000 people, and using the DG wallet. That for us was very important to show that technically we are able to do the job, but the problem is on the cooperation and coordination, cooperation and communication process, the 3C. And I think we were able to do it in a very short period of time. And I think it was a huge success. Based on that, now we are trying to work to, let's say, to increase the capacity of this, let's say, digital payment. And as you said, Jean, 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, I think we launched the first establishment of payment. And we think by the end of this year, we will have 5 or establishment of payment operating in Tunisia. This, I think, new technology will permit a lot of, I think in Tunisia will permit a lot of, will increase the financial inclusion. You asked for our strategy. I will try to be very quick. I think our first pillar was, it was always on the regulatory framework. Second pillar, it was on setting up reliable and modern infrastructure. Pillar 3 is on promoting innovation, promoting innovation in payments, and the pillar 4, government payment digitalization. On the pillar 1, on the payment service providers, I think, as I said, we are now working in the central bank with the banks and other, I think, technology partners on trying, to put these services on the ground, and for that we were able to, to change some of our regulatory framework. Then the circular on May 2020 on the domestic mobile payment helped a lot to establish the establishment of a standardized framework of mobile payment operation. It was very, very important, to put the rules of the law, the rules of the game, and to promote digital payment by the free transaction and capped fees. In addition to promoting financial inclusion, this framework will be a huge opportunity for job creation, mainly for the fintech ecosystem. And you know very well that since the establishment of the Startup Act, now we have more than 500 startups and more than 100 fintechs operating in Tunisia. The National Payment Council also was very important, to establish. For a better governance of the digital payment strategy, the Central Bank of Tunisia plans to set up a National Council of Payment as a forum for consultation by involving stakeholders in the payment ecosystem. The pillar 2 is setting up reliable and modern infrastructure. Now we are working with the SMT, the National Mobile Payment Switch, and we are trying to restructure and to better govern this very important institution and entity in Tunisia. And today, I think the SMT will be more efficient to deal with the mobile payment. Also, we are part of the national project of the ID number, and it's moving very, very fast because normally it should be used to help and to support the let's say the mobile payment. That also is part of what we are trying to do. And finally, the Central Bank of Tunisia is setting up a new generation of RTGS in order to be more compliant with international standards, specifically concerning security and performance in settlement. On the Pillar 3, we are promoting innovation in payment. The CBT has launched several mechanisms: regulatory sandbox, as you said, innovation lab, and dedicated website to collaborate with fintech and meet opportunities offered by disruptive technologies. In this context, 4 fintechs were selected to test their innovative solutions: cross-border payment solution based on blockchain, CBDC, crowdfunding, and eKYC throughout the regulatory sandbox. Such a mechanism guarantee for these young talents and entrepreneurs in an easy go-to-market and enhanced digital inclusion. Finally, the Pillar 4 on the government and the payment digitalization. Digitalization includes, in collaboration with the government and with the support of the World Bank, the CBT is actively contributing to the implementation of consolidated architecture of government payment that optimize investment costs and guarantees transparency with the aim of providing added value public service for the users. I think we will be able now to try to reach on the payment via the digital channel 3 to 4 million households, and transition to real price in progressive manner on the basis of the ID number, and thus by using the platform and distribution channels offered by the ecosystem. That is part of what now we are trying to do, because you know very well that let's say the subsidy reform will not be able to see the light without having this, let's say, digital payment technology and able you know, to help and to support the cash transfer operation. And that's also is part of what we are trying to do. And it's not easy. It's quite complicated sometimes, but I know it's very, very challenging. But the Central Bank of Tunisia is trying to help and to support and to lead the process. And believe me, the transformation is coming. And I know very well that we are highly and strongly supported by our partners. I want to thank you, Jean-Denis, because I think you were with us in the beginning of the process. I want also to thank the IFC, because also they are working with us, helping on the ground with a lot of firms. And also I want to thank the Arab Monetary Fund and Dr. Hamidy, because he knows, and I know that for us, financial inclusion through this technology is a key for Tunisia, but also for the region. And Ferid was clear about the regional integration in the Maghreb. I think the startup and fintech will do the regional integration. I believe on it, and we will push for that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Marouane, for this quick 360 of all the progress in Tunisia. It's actually quite amazing how things have changed in a couple of years, and you've the central bank and you personally have played a very important role to foster that change. So let me turn now to Mr. Ashraf Sabry, so the CEO of Fawry. So Fawry started in 2008, and you have now become the leading Egyptian digital transformation and e-payment platform. I tried to say that properly. So you started with a simple bill payment in cash, and now you have extended to multiple channels: online, ATM, mobile wallet, etc. So what were the key elements in terms of essential infrastructure, governance, regulatory framework that really allowed that transformation, and what lessons you draw from it? Thank you, Ashraf. You are muted.
Okay, I'm not muted right now. So I mean, initially, I would like to thank everybody for the invitation. I mean, it is a pleasure to be with you and try to participate in this important event. So actually, let me tell you. I mean, we started when there was no regulatory framework. Whether this is good or bad, it is something that we have to discuss. But in many situations, fintechs or companies that are introducing new services are ahead of the regulator. Okay, sometimes this is good and sometimes this is bad. Okay, we were lucky that while starting, our services were part of being offered through banking channels, through the ATM, through the internet banking, and so on, which enabled us to be working very closely with the central bank, because a bank cannot actually introduce a new product to the market without having the approval of the central bank. So this helped us actually from the early start to comply with regulator requirements, whether this is in terms of security, in terms of service availability, in terms of risk management, and all that stuff. So because of this early involvement of the central bank, although not officially and not in a direct way with us, this enabled us, when the time came, to start offering more standard services like card payment, like mobile payment, like other e-commerce payments and all the stuff, to be in a position where we are compliant. So this have actually made, going to these areas simpler and less costly, because we started the whole thing early enough. So I think part of where we are right now, I would put two things or three things. I think number one is we thought about people first. And I think this is very important. And I think all the evolution around the world, where they so-call it fintech, is around the last mile, whether the last mile is a merchant or the last mile is a consumer, where you are creating a value, whether this is convenience, whether this is more business, whether this is whatever it is. Okay, so focus on the last mile and the consumer is very important, because the banking industry is one of the industries that have enjoyed automation and infrastructure for a long time. We have the ATMs in most of the countries, probably 20 years ago, if not more. Banking back-end systems have been well automated, but always banks have not thought well of the customer experience or the merchant experience. And I think this is where the fintech companies can play a good role in cooperation with the banks, because at the end of the day, it has to be a cooperative efforts, I mean, in that space. So I think I'm in between focusing on the customer and the merchant, between being close to the central bank since we started, so that we can comply with the requirements, even if we're not regulated 100%, helped us actually to grow fast and to have this ecosystem in place. So I mean, I think those are the main things. I would always say it is good to be close to the central bank. It is not bad, but you need to be patient, and you need to understand that they have real worries and they have real fears, and they have been governed by a certain legacy for a long time. I have also to say here that the central bank and the governor of the central bank in Egypt, with all due appreciation, have made very aggressive and bold movements. And what I'm trying to say, a change in this space cannot happen within the legacy of the existing people or the legacy of the existing platforms. So I can recall that this guy have hired, a complete new platform of people. okay, have helped them to enjoy attending every conference that me as a private sector company was attending. So this exposure and this new people and the build-up of the mentality of the ecosystem was very important, so that when you speak with the regulator or you speak even with the bank, people are aware about what's happening inside the world. And this was very important as well. So I think between those factors, all of those was where like a good platform for growth and for evolution. Thank you.
Thank you very much for these, both the technical element, but also highlighting the importance of the spirit of innovation, accepting to do things differently. I think we'll experience also how much we are learning for our kids when it comes to digital payment and not from the elders. So thank you very much for highlighting that. So let me now turn to Khawla from the National Aid Fund in Jordan. So you have embraced mobile payment as a channel to make payment to beneficiaries. You've launched a digital platform in 2019, which aims at improving cash transfer delivery with online registration, automatic data verification, payment through basic bank accounts, etc. Can you explain to us a little bit the reason why you switched to digital payment, how that was built, and what are the lessons learned and how it currently works? To you, Khawla.
Thank you. Thank you for the World Bank team for preparing this webinar and for giving us this opportunity to speak about our experience in Jordan in digital payment. Our preparation to switch to digital payment in National Aid Fund, which is the biggest institution, government institution in Jordan, provide cash assistance for poor or vulnerable families, started from 2018. Because until that time, we were used to pay for beneficiaries through cash payment through the post office. So the government took a decision to start to move to digital payment for all the government services, and National Aid Fund was one chosen for the first stage of this movement. We started to prepare for this operation in 2018. At that time, we have only one program was running, which is the monthly cash program, and it was the biggest one. It served more than 100,000 beneficiaries. They received their cash assistance through a post office. And it was in board also. We are preparing to expand the coverage of our service and include another 85,000 beneficiaries through another program for Takaful, which was planned to be implemented in 3 years from 2019 until 2081 by adding 25,000 in 2019, then 30,000 in 2020 and 30,000 in 2021. So we started our transfer by doing small experiments in selected areas in Jordan and get the feedback of these experiments on the beneficiaries from the monthly cash program. The feedback was very satisfaction, and people were very satisfied and very happy with the movement from taking their money from the post office to the digital payment. And we remember that the beneficiaries were very happy in the feeling that of their dignity, that they are when they were standing online on the post office, everyone knows that they are going to take their aids and they are poor, but now they are going to banks or the agents of the e-wallet providers. So no one knows the difference between them, or anyone is entering the bank. They feel of dignity, and this was very important for them. And of course, we conduct for them info sessions, awareness sessions, especially for the e-wallet, because it was something unfamiliar in Jordan, and they didn't know how to use the phone for cashing in or cashing out or transfer money. So we conduct info sessions for those beneficiaries. From this experiment, we found that the main challenge that we will face in starting the main process is the financial literacy for the beneficiaries. They need to be more aware about how to use these digital digital ways or the digital methods, and to know more about the financial inclusion and other services that they can do rather than just only cash out the money. So we decided that to start the implementation in 2020 by moving first by enrolling the new beneficiaries for the Khawla program, the 25,000 beneficiary, for digital payments and giving them the options of opening bank account or e-wallet account. And we bought a plan also to move the 100 old beneficiaries from the monthly program in a plan of 6 months to move them to digital payment. And we make a decision that the info sessions should be mandatory for those beneficiaries to give them the full awareness or the needed awareness on how to use the digital payments. So when we start in 2020, and as you know, the COVID-19 pandemic occurs, and there changes should be in our plan because the info sessions that we were planning to conduct for those beneficiaries are now is not an option. We can't do it because of the safety measures that and the defense orders that we have and the full closure that we have at that time. So we can't conduct info sessions for beneficiaries. Also, the bank account, opening a bank account became not an option for the beneficiaries because the banks are closed, and all the banks or most of the banks in Jordan wasn't have the ability to open accounts remotely or through applications. So the beneficiaries should go to the bank to open an account. So we have these two changes for our plan. We have only the e-wallet option for the beneficiaries because we have 7 service providers for e-wallet in Jordan, and all of them have online applications, so beneficiaries can open a mobile account remotely through this application, and we can do face-to-face info sessions. So we decided to only go with the 25,000 beneficiaries, the new 25,000 beneficiaries of the Khawla program through the digital payment, and postpone the 100 from the old cases until the situation is become more easy for them to or we can conduct for them the info sessions. So the 25,000 beneficiaries, we replaced the face-to-face info sessions by a virtual info sessions for them, and also we use the SMS and text messages, the interactive SMS, to aware them of the options that they are eligible and the options that they have to open an e-wallet, and the type of service provider that we have, and how to use the mobile to open an account. We give them videos and graphics, and we conduct a hotline at National Aid Fund and the National Hotline for the government to support those beneficiaries in opening the account. And we managed to enroll all those beneficiaries. Also, we conduct in 2020 as an emergency program, we conduct or implement a new emergency program for around 250,000 beneficiaries from the daily worker who were affected in the crisis. This short program, which was for 3 months, and this is a huge number of beneficiaries that we are going to serve. And also we decided that, or this is the only option that we have, is to use the e-wallet to provide them or to give them their benefit. So also we use the text messages, the interactive text messages to enroll them and to aware them about their eligibility and how to open the account. This also came up with a new challenge for us with dealing with digital payments, that when we conduct this or implement this huge program like the emergency cash program with this number of beneficiaries and with this huge number of transaction and financial transaction, we face the challenge of liquidity with the mobile agents. They are not prepared to deal with this huge number of transactions and to have this huge number of money in their merchants or their shops. So this was one of the main challenges that we faced at that period in 2020 in conducting this program. To get on this, we were sending our lists of beneficiaries in batches, so to avoid the crowd in the agents for cashing the money. Also, at the end of 2020, the government decided to implement a big program, which is the bread subsidy program. And this is targeted not the poor only, but it is targeted more than 70% of the population of Jordan. In Jordan, we have more than 1.8 million families. In Jordan, this program targeted 1.2 million families. The government decided to use our platform for conducting or implementing this program, benefiting from what you mentioned before, the online registration, the digital payment, the verification, online verification forms that we have. So this is also had give us the opportunity to enroll, and because we used only the digital methodologies for paying for the bread subsidy, this is also had cover most of the Jordanians to be able to have e-wallets or bank accounts at that time. And
Khawla, sorry,
yes.
please, we need to move to the next round of questions. Please, if you can conclude on your first intervention.
Oh, okay, I'm almost finished. This is one of the most ideas that I want to mention, but I want here also to present that this huge transaction that we did forced us also to improve or to implement our payment system. So we implement a new payment system that is linked to all the service providers and the bank and the central bank. So all our payment to be done fully automated through the system without using semi-automated or manual methods. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, including highlighting all the effort to build trust and somehow progressively educate the population on the benefit of this payment, new payment system. And actually that leads me naturally to our round 2 question, which is how to promote adoption. We've done a lot on the supply side, but how to promote adoption, how to build trust. And online, there are also lots of questions related to that on what are the mechanisms to make use, create more incentive for use, and also to promote the use of digital identification, which can be a facilitator of this. So Marouane, you mentioned earlier the complexity of digital payment. So it was very simple and very complex, and sometimes there can be misunderstanding on how to make it work. So what have you done in Tunisia to foster trust in the payment system from both the operator and user, and really have people feel comfortable and then be able to build on that momentum to expand access?
Thank you. Very difficult question. You know very well that as I think it was said that in our countries we don't have sometimes we don't have these what we call the financial education is key, but we are trying to work on it. But to answer your question, I think the discussion between the institution first, and after the the cooperation between the key institutions is very, very, very important. For example, in Tunisia, I have, let's say, each month a formal meeting with the Minister of Information Technology, because you know very well that we have a lot of problems to solve together. And we need also to share the information between us and also to coordinate our approach. Sometimes when you let the bureaucracy functioning, then it takes time. That's why I think having this discussion, and we discovered this method during this COVID time, the first time when we used this technology to do the cash transfer through the DG wallet. We discovered that we need to bring together the let's say the ministries, the technical departments inside the ministries, and the technical people, they need to talk and to work together, but at the same time, with the support from World Bank and World Bank, the World Bank Group, EBRD and IFC, etc., we were able also to provide with some very important technical assistance. That also is part of what we have done during this COVID period, and how we managed to have this, let's say, this project enhanced and put on the ground. But today we are functioning in, let's say, on the new, let's say, we established a new governance of our projects. We have technical people coming from the private sector, and we have technical people from the public sector, central bank, and ministries, and they are trying to work together, and they are also trying to put together, you know, these, let's say, these programs. And as a governor and ministers, etc., we are trying to do, let's say, the arbitration. And as soon as you know, we give, let's say, the right signals, I think the problems could be solved, and I think we can speed the process. That's what we are trying to do. Then, as I said, there's the strategy. We are working on, you know, in these 4 pillars we are talking about, and we have some very important projects we try to put together. And the key is, as I said, the 3C: coordination, cooperation, and communication. It's very, very, very important. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Marouane. Ashraf, let me turn to you from the private sector perspective. So what have you done to promote adoption? And if I may, in particular by women, where we know the benefit of digital financial services and financial inclusion for women. So what have you done as a private company, and what has helped or not helped to achieve these results?
I always forget that I have to unmute myself, so I'm sorry for that. But let me expand the framework of the question a little bit, because I think, I mean, rather than narrowing what Fawry has done, probably I would like to share experiences that we have gained throughout the journey, and this is very important. I think the first experience is that we have all to understand that opening bank accounts or digital wallets is ahead of payment. And meaning that you can have a bank account, a card, or a wallet, and then you can cash it out from an ATM or from an agent, okay? Which means that the cash in circulation is still the same, and payment did not happen, okay? So this is something that we have to understand, and we have to understand it is a real problem everywhere. And I can give you an example in Egypt. If you look at card usage, only around 10% of the card usage is in electronic payment, and the rest is cash out from ATMs or from agents or whatever. So I think this is something that we have to know how to increase the adoption, whether from the demand side or from the supply side, to make the system work. Because now transferring money into an account and cashing it out is good for the government, is good for the corporation, but it saves some operating expenses and creates some convenience, but it does not really go deeply into the ecosystem in terms of improvement and GDP growth and the rest. Okay. The second thing that I think is a challenge, and we need to really dig into it, that there are some portions of the legacy systems governing us that probably are not or does not fit into what we are aiming to. And we try to move within those legacies to achieve an objective without considering challenging the legacies altogether. And let me highlight that in more details. Number one, I think beneficiaries have to pay for the cost. So the cost of the service have to be paid by the beneficiary. Okay. So when you look at electronic payment, for example, at a merchant, can you tell me why a small merchant should pay a fee, okay, to the acquirer bank or to the issuer bank or to whatever the bank is to make an electronic transaction? Okay. If we use the legacy, whereby, you know, it is a safety of money and all the stuff, the reality is no. I mean, those guys are small merchants. They have been used to handling cash, and there is no issue with that. Okay. Second, can you tell me why a small merchant would accept taking his money 2 days after the payment happens and his working capital and turnover is something that is evolving? He needs the money immediately. Okay. So putting him within the framework of a legacy system where the settlement of the money takes 2 days, and then you have to go to the bank or to the ATM to cash it again. Okay. I think we have to think very carefully about that. Can you tell me why a small merchant would accept an electronic balance if he pays his suppliers in cash? I mean, it wouldn't work. What I'm trying to say is we have really to think beyond the traditional legacy systems in order to improve adoption. And I will actually invite, all the attendees to look at a couple of experiences worldwide that have challenged the entire ecosystem with new systems, and they have succeeded a lot. The first is looking east towards China, where the Alipay and the others, where they considered a transaction from a consumer to a merchant as a person to person. And the reality is that those small businesses, the difference between personal money and business money is not there. Okay. So that's why when you look at China and you look how the transformation happened and how the cash have been replaced by electronic, you will find that it has been amazing. Okay. High growth, the highest growth ever in conversion across the world. If you look in Kenya, you will find the same. So what I'm trying to say is that adoption requires a change in the mindset and requires that beneficiaries pay the cost. And let me hammer a little bit, if I have 1 minute, on beneficiaries pay the cost, because it is important, okay? Do you think when an electronic payment happens, who are the main beneficiaries? To me, I will say the main beneficiaries are the banks and the government, okay? Banks will have less cash in circulation, and the central bank will have less cash in circulation. Banks will have cheaper cost of funds so that they can fuel that into the economy with less cost of capital, so that they can help lending at cheaper rates. So the reality is, although banks, okay, and the government are the real beneficiaries out of electronic payment, I'm speaking about a country where prepaid, debit, and wallets are the main stored value accounts, where there is no credit that can increase the sales, okay? So where the fact is you can go to the ATM, withdraw the money, pay it to the merchant without any fees. But the moment you think that you want to process an electronic payment, there are fees in the ecosystem, okay? Which, if you look at it, I mean, very simply, it is not logic. I mean, if I have an ATM beside me, I go, withdraw money without any fee, give it to the merchant, there is no fee, and settlement happens instantly, it is not repudiated, and all the stuff, okay? If you compare this to an electronic payment, you'll find there are fees, somebody have to pay for it, the transaction is not final, and it can be subject to repudiation, and you receive your money later, okay? So we have to challenge those ideas. I mean, and we have to understand who will pay for the service. Okay, and I like in the introduction where I mean we were speaking about digital payments, and if you can replay that, you will find out that we said we will have more data to lend better. We will have less cash in circulation. We will have. I would like to find out who are we, okay? And I think we is the government and the banks. And we are governed by the international schemes and all the stuff, and we have to really look and challenge that. Instant payments is becoming very important. We have to put instant payments in place if we want to increase adoption. By that, I mean, I would have, finished. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ashraf, and thank you for having helped us to turn to the forward-looking. We are. I need to be extremely mindful of time so that Ferid can have enough time to conclude. So I'm going to turn to Khawla and then Marouane in 2 minutes. What is the one fundamental reform that is needed to continue and push the promotion of digital payments in MENA, in your specific country in the region? So, Khawla, the one top things to be done based on your experience to really push the envelope in MENA.
I want to agree with what Mr. Ashraf said about the fees that the beneficiary needs to pay in using the digital payment. This is the big problem from moving from cash to digital. If I will pay a fees, I prefer to deal with cash rather than digital payments. In Jordan, they solved this problem for the bank account. The Central Bank of Jordan has changed the regulation and issued a new bank account called Basic Bank Account. This Basic Bank Account is very easy to open for the beneficiaries, for the poor or the vulnerable beneficiaries. It needs no minimum balance, no fees for cashing out or using the ATMs or using this bank account. So this helps us in National Aid Fund to enroll or to register people in bank account. This is the main point I think it's important.
Thank you very much, Khawla. So Marouane, I'm going to turn to you. And one of the questions that was asked on the chat, I tried to bring some of the questions on the chat in the discussion, was about cross-border payment, in particular facilitating the life of exporters. So maybe while you tell us a little bit your forward-looking vision, and I know you've been very active in the Maghreb on cross-border payment, how you see also that angle as a way to facilitate platform economy also on a cross-border perspective and regional integration?
To answer your first question, I think it's not easy to have, let's say, one option or one program. But I think the most important problem we are facing, it's a cultural problem. And we need to change our way to do things. With the regulatory sandbox and the BCT lab, we are talking to the fintech, the people who are very, very close to the technology, and also they're not even in Tunisia. They're part of they're in Tunisia, but also it's part of what we call this diaspora. And they were in the banking system and moved to startups, etc. And they are speeding, let's say the adoption of the technology. And this discussion, and I think the gentleman from Egypt was, he said, I think we are on the instant payment. We could not, we need to change the economic model and the business model. our business model and the economic model also from the other stakeholders. That's also part of how you can reach this goal. And I totally agree with what he said on the cashless programs, etc. It's crucial for us, to change our way to do things as a central banks and banks. And I think what we have done with what we call the establishment of payment is to bring also competition. Now we will have, for example, in Tunisia, the telecom companies. They asked for having, and the 3 telecom companies together. They asked to have their establishment of payment. Then they will boost the competition between banks and telecom companies. That's what is part of. But we need also to be able to prepare the technology on the payment, but also to be able also to change our regulatory framework. And that's also it's a huge, let's say, challenge for us. Now, I will tell you, Denis, my first mission in Algeria, and it was to discuss with the 2 governors, the Libyan governors and the Algerian governors. It was on the cash in the cross-border region, and how we will how we can manage, to decrease the level of the cash between the 3 countries. And I think now we have. As I said, in our regulatory sandbox, we have this cross-border payment, and we are working with the team who was even selected in Banque de France. And before coming to DC, to talk to the IMF, I've had an email from the governor of the central bank asking for a cooperation between the 2 central banks to deal with the cross-border payment. Then I think. Without cross-border payment, without putting, let's say, the right technology and the right skills, to deal with the cross-border payment, because we can change our way to do trade, and we can also help and to support people, because you have a lot of people, moving, tourists moving, from Algeria to Tunisia. Is millions of people moving from these all these issues. We have our let's say, Tunisian abroad, and they need also, when they are in Europe or in the US, they are using, advanced technology coming to Tunis. They are facing huge problems with even to use the payment cards. That's why I think a lot is to be done, and we know very well the constraints we are facing. We know very well that technology also is moving very fast. That's why, as I said, it's a cultural dilemma. We need to enter in, we need to get the right experts, the right technology, the right technical assistance, but also to take the right decision in the right time. And sometimes it's quite complicated for us as a governor of central bank and minister of finance, etc., because we are always, we have other problems, to manage, but we need to focus on this one because it could help us a lot to deal with the cash, the huge cash in our economy, the informal economy, to deal also with the fiscal inequality, because when we will put the, let's say, the new fracture of the payment, of course, we will decrease the level of the informality in the economy. That's part of what we are working on, and we are doing our best to be able, to be on the train this time, not out of the train, because that's also is part of what I'm always saying. Thank you, Jean-Denis, for organizing this this webinar, and thanks for our friends from the region, because I think very, very interesting discussion with our colleague from Egypt and our colleague from Jordani, and I can say Eid Mubarak for all of our participants, for whom they are fasting and doing Ramadan and having Eid in the coming days. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ashraf, Khawla, and Marouane, and thank you, Marouane, for giving us the direction and an inspiring conclusion. Ferid, I'm sorry I messed up with time, but we had lots of very interesting things to discuss, from the art, regulation, technology, to the culture and the sense of innovation and the need to open the box and think about new ways of doing business and change the business model. So thank you very much for all of you. A lot of things and inspiring and suggestion for the future, including learning from what's happening outside MENA. So thanks a lot for this, a very, very good discussion. And we try to pick some of the questions, but I understand that Ferid wants to pick a couple. So Ferid, the floor is yours.
No, look, thank you very much, everybody. Thank you very much, Khawla and Ashraf and Marouane on this. Actually, one gets a bit humbled because you have your finger on the pulse, and you are the practitioners. You are the ones moving forward with this. So it's whatever I would say, will be dwarfed by your own, on the job experience. So thank you very much for that. A couple of points that I gather and that basically would help us in our own agenda. Looking at what's happening around the region, notably because of the impact, the economic and social impact of COVID-19, we have expanded our social safety nets programs, and we would not have been able to be efficient to get cash into people's hands without, the whole digitalization of payments. So this is something that is really important. And the second point, and all of you have mentioned it, is the cross-border discussion. I always make this point. Last time I was in Algeria, I met with a number of young entrepreneurs, startup young people. And they had amazing ideas, and they were doing great. And actually, money-wise, they were doing very, very well. I asked them, what could the bank do to help? Their consensus comment was, please help us get the government off of our back. Let us just do our things without the overwhelming laws and legislation, regulations, etc., that are hampering our industry. And this is really something, maybe a question for all of you. People talk about, in Tunisia, for instance, the Startup Act, and people talk about, laws and regulation to make sure that we frame, this digital industry. I feel it counterintuitive to try to frame an industry that is by essence based on creativity, on speed, on evolution. So the tension here is how can we, keep it legit in a way, but at the same time not frame it in a manner that would actually hamper its development. And this is really, a question that I'd like to put quickly on the table for the three of you. You have the experience, and maybe you can help us, bridge that gap between creativity, innovation, youth, and speed, and the need to have, a framework that would make it, operational. So back to you, if I may, for quick comments on that.
Ferid, I would like to jump in. Rather than waiting to be introduced, because this is very near to my heart. So I would like to look at what others have done and find out how to free up entrepreneurs and startups and even organizations to come in and introduce to the market new products and services without jeopardizing the rules and the risk and all the stuff. So I will summarize that in probably 4 things. Digital KYC. Okay, digital KYC is a must. Because digital KYC is the station where everybody can wait for the government to say that he is this person. Opening up AML and sanction lists with API services so that you can validate whether this guy is on a sanction list or not on a sanction list. Okay, because this is one thing that is very important. Open banking APIs, even if this comes through the central switch, and this is an experience that's happening in Egypt right now. So rather than each bank would have an open API, they have opened an API through the central switch, which give access to any card or account. I think this is very important. Encourage open banking platforms so that if there are any regulatory requirements, third-party providers can work on it without having the hassle of developing too much, because there are regulatory requirements, whether they are risks, whether they are fraudulent transactions, whatever they are. So we have to facilitate that. By this, you would have an open platform that is well regulated, well governed, and in the meantime, the last mile and those who can develop, they can think of a whole latitude of services. We are speaking about, for example, international remittances or international money spending. I will not even say remittances. When you look at a company, I think it is in the UK, which is called Revolut, the whole value of Revolut is decreasing the fees while purchasing in a foreign country from 8% surcharge to 2%, okay? And this is through open. What I'm trying to say, build something very robust, very well regulated, that is open for others to compete, and let them compete, okay? And I think this is, I mean, very important. I will share an experience in a second. Regardless the payment, I was in Sudan probably 9 months ago, something like that, looking at the market there, and I was astonished that the electronic payment transactions far exceeded everything that you would have never really said. Why this happens in Sudan? There is no good meaning. Why? And you discover that the reality was that there was no cash. They couldn't print the cash because of other issues, okay? And because there was no cash, there was no other options for the money to circulate except through electronic payment. And it is then when the banks paid the merchant to have the money circulating between the accounts. So what I'm trying to say that when the model was facing an issue because of absence of cash, which we are trying to achieve, electronic payment came at the front and the right economics happened automatically. And by that, I would like to thank you again and to tell you happy Eid and thank you again. Thank you very much.
If you allow me also to say, yeah, thank you. I'm speaking in respect of my work in social protection and working with poor and vulnerable people. The problem that we face that we transfer beneficiaries to digital payments, but we didn't give them enough services, especially in the remote areas and in the rural areas. They open bank account or e-wallet account, but there is no banks, no ATMs, no merchants, no agents they can sell of point to use. So they found difficulties. So this is, I think, we should think of when we want to move people to digital payments. We should provide the services in all the countries, not just focus on the centers or on the middle of the cities. We have to think of remote areas, poor people in rural areas, and give them the services that they can use this digital payment and reach the point that all of us use be cashless and use our digital methods to pay, to sell, to pay, to do all our. Sorry, my English is is not helping me, but to do all the financial things using this technology, not just open an account and go to and cash out the money and then return back to use the cash to buy or to pay rent or anything else. This is my point, and thank you for all of you, and happy Eid for all who are celebrating the Eid. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Khawla. Maybe Marouane?
Yes, Ferid, as usual, a very tough question for the end of the discussion. Look, we need the regulation. We cannot avoid, to have regulation, because we are dealing with funds, we are dealing with cash, but also we are dealing with the confidence. That's also is part of normally what we should do. But what we are doing right now with the fintech on the with the regulatory sandbox is very important, because we are giving data and we are talking about the new regulation, and that is part of what we are learning together. And it's also a very short time to talk, 6 months to 9 months, not more, not to stay for years. Because I think it's very important, and you said it clearly from your discussion with the youth in Algeria. It's the let's say the perception of the time for the fintech, for the startup. For them, they are on the instantaneity. We are taking more time. And I think that's what we need. We need to work on is to try to go to the let's say fintech startup time, not to the administration, the government time. That is part of what we should do. It's not easy. That's why I said it's very cultural, dilemma. But the transformation could not come without having this, let's say, this kind of discussion, and how we put the right programs and the right measures to deal with. Because if not, we will also lose this momentum for this transformation. It was done in China. It was done even in some other countries. But you can see the Swiss experience. Sometimes they're using, just a canton to do a new regulation and to show that it's working in the new canton. And after, it could be used by the central bank, etc. That's also is very, very, very important to let's say, to change our way of, let's say, putting the rules and having the new regulation, because in our countries, it's always adding regulation to regulation and not, let's say, changing, the way of doing things. That's also is part of what we need to do. Even as a central bank, we need also to change our way to think and to issue regulation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Marouane. If I may, Jean, I would love to hear concluding remarks, words from Abdulrahman. So please, Abdulrahman, why don't you come in?
Ferid, thank you so much, and to all colleagues at the World Bank, Governor Abassi, and our friends from Egypt and from Jordan. I really enjoyed the session, but I want just a word on cross-border payments, and I want to repeat what I have said in the opening, that we are already establishing this institution called BUNA. It's a cross-border payment within the region and with outside the region. It is supposed to facilitate the transactions within the Arab currencies. So far, we support the use of UAE dirham, Saudi riyal, and Egyptian pound. And we are finalizing Jordanian dinar to be added to the list of currencies. Already, we also can support US dollar payments. And we are also finalizing the process for the euro, and we will be adding other Asian currencies, other Arab currencies, and other international currencies. We are very much in contact with international central banks. This BUNA platform also does meet the international standards, whether it is international standards of payment systems or international standards of AMF, CFT principles. We also, with this institution, do meet the requirements of cross-border payments of G20 recommendations. And we are being invited across regions to present this new institution. And just to add that we have been asked by our Board of Governors and governors of central banks to pay attention to compliance, not because payment systems do compliance, just in order to pay attention and raise the bar within the region of compliance. This is why we have added this leg, and it is for the benefit of our participants. We are already in communication with about 160 banks within the region and from outside the region, and we have completed the technical connectivity with a good number of them. And hopefully we are now sitting to start and with an intensive transactions and real work of this. It will provide also an affordable cross-border payments. And this is extremely important with the importance of remittances within the region and outside the region. And also we are working with Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation to connect with other countries outside the region and other platforms. We will be connecting with major trading partners in order to incentivize cross-border trade, cross-border investments. And we have a plan, we have a very ambitious strategy to connect the regional markets, financial markets, in order to also provide a market for the issuance of papers from within the region. And therefore, before I finish, Ferid, I want to thank the World Bank, because the World Bank has been very much involved with us in this project, because it's extremely important for the integration within the region and outside the region. I don't want to forget to mention the name of Harish, who has been really working very closely with us. I thank you, Ferid. I thank the World Bank, and also Governor Abassi with us now. I want to thank the central banks in the region, because they have been very much in support to us. And this is, we have received a letter a few days ago from Governor Al-Abbasi to say that the Central Bank of Tunisia will connect directly to this institution, and therefore it is receiving tremendous support from within the region and from the international. And also we have been in very good contact with international central banks, the Fed, the ACB, Bank of England, Bank de France, and other central banks also from Asia. But thank you for the opportunity, and I hope this new institution will facilitate the cross-border transactions. Thank you, Ferid, for the opportunity.
Thank you very, very much, Abdulrahman. To everybody, Eid Mubarak. But Jean will be the one closing this very, very productive session. So see you all very, very soon, hopefully in person, in Cairo, in Jordan, in Tunisia, of course, and then at some point I would need to come and visit with you, Abdulrahman. It's been long, standing for too long. So as soon as we can get free from this whole COVID thing, I'll come and visit with you. So
I will come with you, Ferid.
Over to you, Jean.
So thank you very much, Ferid. Thank you, everybody. We put everybody on screen so that we can take a group photo because it's been a really interesting discussion. Thank you to everybody who listened on the live channel of the bank and sent questions. We tried to take on board as many as we could, but it's obviously a topic that creates a lot of interest. There's been tremendous progress. There is a lot still to be done, including to do things differently. So thank you very much for bringing that element of innovation and doing things differently. And thank you for the support. Ferid, thank you very much for your support. You've made digital payment one of your priorities, and we've seen how much you've invested also in the topic. And thank you for pushing the discussion at the end, because I think we have collectively a lot to learn. And as everybody said, also a lot to learn of what's happening in the rest of the world. And it's sometimes been a bumpy process in some of this country. It's important that the region learns from it. And at the end of the day, it's the benefit of the citizen. It's to build trust. It's also to facilitate private sector development and job creation, which are tremendous challenging in the region. And we've seen over the last year how things can be changed by digital payment through the cash transfer. And Ferid, thanks for having put that back at the center. I remember the picture a year ago of the lines of people getting the cash transfer, and when we move to payment, immediately things change. These are also the images that shows the importance of continuing to push this agenda. And the bank and IHC continue to be very much available for the country in the region and the citizen to continue to promote and assist and bring the best experience that we can. So thank you very much. It's been a great discussion. We still have a lot of work in front of us, but I think the element of inspiration and commitment come out very clearly. Thank you, everybody, and have a good evening and good iftar for the colleagues in the region. Maybe a bit too late for that, but thank you very much. Bye.